Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gay Men Going Deeper, a podcast about personal development, mental health, and sexuality. Today, I'm your host. My name is Michael DiIorio. I am a life and wellness coach specializing in self-confidence, sexuality, and relationships. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, Pepper, and we are going to be talking about being kinder on Grindr. So before we jump in, Pepper, this is your first time on the podcast. Let's give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yay, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Pepper. I'm a content creator based out of Los Angeles, California. I am a proud gay man from Miami, Florida, born in Brazil, but by way of Miami. On the side, I practice astrology, I make music as well, and I'm very excited to be here and talking about ways we can be better towards each other and ourselves on Grindr.
Yes, so thank you for joining us, Pepper. So for our audience out there, as you can probably tell already, Pepper and I have a lot in common with our mission. So we are both, amongst other things, we're both very passionate and vocal about what I like to call conscious dating practices. Simply put, what I define that as is dating practices that are placing more of a higher value on things like kindness, respect, intentionality, and honesty. Now, for the record, Grindr is not sponsoring this episode, although I think they should, but they're not. I will say that I've been a Grindr user on and off for, I think, probably like 10, 12 years at this point, for a very long time. And like many other people out there, I have loved it in many ways, and it's been really awesome for me. I've met some great friends. I've had some hot hookups. I've gone on amazing dates, met some great guys. While I'm traveling, which I'm currently doing right now, actually, it is awesome. Like I have a great time. I actually prefer using Grindr more when I'm traveling than when I'm at home. And it can be really fun and really easy and super efficient. So that's on the plus. But I've also been incredibly frustrated with this app for many ways, in many reasons. So lots of what I call, fakes and catfish who are just trying to get something from me, which is very frustrating. If you look up all the hours of my life I have wasted on Grindr, when I say wasted, I mean like just not had a productive time on it. It adds up. For me, it's one of those things that I go to when I want to be distracted or when I'm bored, and I can end up being a lot of hours in there unwanted. Another thing that I find really frustrating is the endless chat or like all these connections that seem really good at first, but then they just kind of flop and go nowhere. And then finally, the most um, annoying thing for me is the level of rudeness and rejection, like the way people reject each other. I'm fine with rejection, but there's a way, in my opinion, to do it. So that's kind of why we're here today. Now, as a coach, I work mainly with the queer community. And so obviously, as you can imagine, I spend a lot of time talking to my clients about Grindr. And again, similar to me, it's an app that I say people love to hate. We love it because it's great in some ways, but also it can be very frustrating. So I see the positive impact it has on my clients, and I also see the negative impact it has. So we're not here today to say Grindr is good or bad. That is not the purpose of it. Okay. The objective for today is that, we don't think Grindr is going anywhere anytime soon. So if you are going to use it, and if you do choose to engage, what we want to do here today is we want to make an appeal to everyone out there to put in practice more respect and more kindness in the world, but especially on this app where there seems to be a major deficiency. The second thing we want to do is offer some practical tips to make your experience more enjoyable. So with that said, let's jump into our first question, and I'm going to let Pepper answer this one first. So by the way, guys, I guess I should say why I chose Pepper for this. I follow Pepper on Instagram. He's amazing. You follow him too. I'll put the link in the show notes. But a while ago, I don't know how long ago it was, he did a post called 5 Ways to Be Kinder on Grindr. Is that right, Pepper?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I just loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what the world needs. I shared it on mine, of course. So when I was thinking about this topic, obviously, Pepper came up. So let's first ask the question, why is it that kindness is harder to find on Grindr? What do you think?
Great question. I truly think when people are doing their thing, they're on their phones, they forget that who they're messaging, who's messaging them is a fully formed, fully developed human being as well, with their own shit they're dealing with, their own job, their own, flaws, their own highs and lows. And when you're in your bed, on your couch, trying to get something accomplished or seeing what the mood is that night, whatever your objective is on Grindr or most other dating apps as well, especially hookup apps amongst, queer men, people forget that they're talking to someone whose feelings are on the line, who are also being vulnerable. And it's a product of being on our phones and truly neglecting the fact that someone else is also on their phone, surrounded by their room or their living room, having lived their own day. And it can get pretty easy, if not automatic, to just assume, oh, there's a torso, gonna message them, looks nice.
Yeah.
Here we go. And there's a lot of lost respect in that, a lot of dehumanization, kind of an extreme word, but something we've definitely, I guess, uncovered or witnessed or seen when using this specific app. But it goes back to being on your phone and being separated from the idea that there's someone else on the line that you're messaging that is just going about their life as well and trying their best. And we lose sight of that, unfortunately.
I think dehumanization is the perfect word, actually. That's exactly it. And you know what? I'm going to admit this. I've been there, right? Because as I was saying, sometimes when I'm on this app, I'm not in there like consciously, intentionally, this is the one thing I'm doing. Like I'm just going to sit there and open up Grindr. And I like it's usually one of three things I have going on at once. But that's just me. Like I have it over here. I'm watching Netflix over here, maybe texting somebody else at the same time. So I don't give it the person on the other side of the screen, I wouldn't give them the same level of attention and presence as I would if we were on a date in person, or like maybe the primary focus. I wouldn't be like, oh, while they're talking to me, like start talking to my friend over here and then pull up my phone. Like I wouldn't do that. I would be focused on them. So I think, that might have something to do with it as well. Just the distractedness of it, at least for me, I'm speaking personally here.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially on Grindr, there's such a aspect of looking for now, right now, see you in 5 minutes, that you can be talking to more than one person at a time on the app itself. You can be talking to, I don't know, up to four, up to five, exchanging pics and stats and what are you into, and can all get lost. And you're just in that moment, especially if you're horny, which I'd say most people are when they're on the app, you're not exactly thinking, oh, how can I make sure this person is seen and
Mm.
valued? It's more like, how can I get the hottest person over as soon as possible? You're thinking about the payoff and the potential encounter you might have more than the words that you're expressing or not expressing when in pursuit of that.
Yeah, it's the getting. I love the way you said that. It's what can I get? What can I get? Not how am I showing up? Right. So but let's look at your experience. I mean, I said that I've been on Grindr on and off for about 10, 12 years. How long have you been a user of it?
I think I downloaded Grindr right when I was 18.
Wow.
So back in Miami, fresh off, the 18 train, I guess. On and off, I'm now 26. So on and off for about 8 years.
Okay.
And like you, I've had some great experiences, tried new things, made friends, but I've also, of course, like everyone, faced rejection. Been called names, been sent things I didn't want to be sent, solicited where I didn't want to be solicited. And yeah, I think there's no surprise that Grindr has been listed as one of the most time-consuming apps, one of the apps that causes its users the most amounts of depression, of anxiety. I've definitely had my days where I've taken rejection more harder than I would now. I really let it get to me, especially when younger. Especially, as I stated, I was pretty young when I started, and I didn't have many gay friends, a queer community. I'm just trying to find my place in, our world. And seeing that rejection and feeling that didn't necessarily create a space for me to find my self-worth, to find community. And I think for the younger users of Grindr, that's something to really be cognizant of when entering that space, is that yes, there's positives, there's negatives, but it's not the only place where you can find your community and yourself. And if you have a negative experience there, like I had when I was younger and struggling to find my community, that doesn't mean everywhere else in the queer community won't be accepting, won't, give you the time of day. But in saying that, I still use Grindr. I've been using it this week for, research purposes for this podcast. Um, so yeah, on and off user, have what I like about it, many things I don't like about it. That's one of the reasons I made that post. I should also mention the platform I posted it on. I'm not doing a great job of branding myself, but my account is called The Gay Good on Instagram. So at The Gay Good, that's where Michael and I got to know each other a little bit. And yeah, you can find my posts there. But going back to this specific topic, that's my experience with Grindr and why I think it's important we're meeting today to share some tips and tricks, as well as some of the realities that we've encountered on said app.
Yes, and I will be posting your information on the show notes. So for anyone who is looking for Pepper, I'll be posting his Instagram there. So I used to run, well, I still do from time to time, a workshop called How to Meet Great Guys on Grindr. I started doing this maybe during the pandemic, so around 2020. So I'm going to borrow a little bit of the content from that workshop, and I'm going to just kind of throw it in today. But one of the things that I had on there is some stats. Now, keep in mind, this is from, I got these stats in 2020, so it might have changed from then. But one of the reports was that 70% of Grindr users felt regret after using the app. Another stat was that the average daily usage was about 54 minutes. So it's almost an hour of your day on average. That's a long time to be spending on that app. And then another report pretty much said that the user satisfaction, so whether you're a satisfied user of the app or not, really boils down to whether that app is meeting your primary goal, which makes sense. If your primary goal is to hook up and you find someone on there to hook up, you're going to be like, yes, I'm a satisfied user. If your primary goal is to find a relationship and all you're getting is people that want to hook up, you're going to be an unsatisfied user. So those are just a few little stats that are from that workshop I did, How to Meet Great Guys on Grindr, because I do believe it is possible. Not only do I believe it is possible, I have had it happen to me, and I know many people who have met their long-term partner on Grindr. So it's not all bad. So what I want to do next is talk a little bit about this impact on the gay community. So I said, as a coach, I work with mainly the queer community, and yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about Grindr. So it really has become part of our culture. Like it is one of those things that I think, as we look back on the gay culture in like 20, 30 years, Grindr will be one of those things, just like disco was in the 70s, or like bathhouses are still today. So it has shifted our culture, the gay culture, queer culture. But the source, or whether it has shifted it for the positive or negative, is still the source of much debate. And I think personally, as of right now, it's both. In many ways, things have gotten better, but in some ways, it's also worse. But I will say this. So if your main interaction with gay guys is on Grindr, you're going to have a very distorted perspective of the gay community. So, and that may be on any app, actually, not just Grindr. And you're probably going to have a more negative opinion of the gay community if you think that that's all it is all these people on Grindr. That's what the whole gay community is in real life. Now, I know for sure that there are amazing guys out there who, like we were saying at the beginning, they will not show up the same way in person as they would on an app. And I think that's sort of what we want to do here today, is sort of change that. But the things that we hear a lot in the Gay Men's Brotherhood, which is our community of over 6,000 guys, gays just want sex. They're vapid, party boys, vain, and all the ones who are looking for relationships are only looking for open relationships. So again, I host Zoom Hangouts for the last 2 years in this group. So I know a lot of what the real guys out there are like, not just Grindr. I also host my own workshops on sexuality, dating, relationships. I coach one-on-one. And what I can tell you for sure is that is a small piece of the gay community. The ones who want sex, vapid, party boys, vain, and looking for only open relationships. That is there, absolutely. But there are so much more to it than that. Like, I get to hear what goes on in the hearts and minds of guys all over the world, all different ages, all different backgrounds. And guess what? They want, monogamous relationships. They want genuine connections. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They don't want to be on this app. They want to meet somebody. That all exists as well. So let's talk about that. Let's throw that over to Pepper. What do you think the impact has been, sort of, if we take a macro level, like on gay culture? How has this app affected our culture?
I definitely think it has led to more stereotypes, exactly like you were saying. I think I should also say that I live in West Hollywood.
Okay.
We okay over here in LA. Um, and being here, if I'm just going on Grindr, there is a lot of the party boys, the circuit guys, the muscle queens only looking for more fit and ripped guys. And it can be very easy, like it was for me when I first moved to the city and didn't know many people and didn't get the chance to meet many people. I moved here right around COVID and lockdown, where I believed this is the only thing that's going on. I don't necessarily fit this menu, and I
Mhm.
felt a little left out of it. But now that things have opened up, I've gotten to go to drag shows. I've gotten to play sports here in the city and have met a lot of wonderful, artistic, supportive friends in the queer community. But when thinking of Grindr, I think there is mostly, how do I say? I don't want to say distinctly a negative connotation with it. It's definitely, for lack of a better word, memed.
Mhm.
It can be seen as something, funny where we can read our friends about, like, oh, she's on Grindr again.
Mhm.
And but I think you're very right that this is a historic part of our community. And when we look back 20 and 30 years, this is going to be something that people write about and want to learn more about how it affected and still affects the community. So when thinking about the greater um, I guess, impact Grindr has had on us, I think, again, it's a twofold answer. A lot of people have been able to connect with others, find relationships or find kinship, find platonic relationships as well, find their tribe. Whereas some people may have not found that and felt FOMO, left out of the party, like they didn't belong. So I don't think I can confidently say myself that Grindr has had a positive or mostly positive or mostly negative impact on our community, but it definitely has had an impact and it's there. And every day there will be someone on the app that has a great experience and someone that doesn't have a great experience. And unfortunately, that is what it is. But I hope conversations like this can gently, well, swiftly get that to become more overwhelmingly positive or at least respectful interactions on the app.
Okay, let's take it personally then. What for you specifically, your personal experience, what has been your, I guess, biggest pet peeve with the app?
My biggest pet peeve is flaky people.
Mm,
I don't have all the time in the world, and like you said, sometimes I'm on the app and I'm doing other things. I'm watching Netflix, I'm getting ready for my day, who knows what. But specifically, if I'm on the app and I am looking, which I would typically make that known, and we'll go into that when we talk about more tips and tricks. Um, I usually bottom, and I like to be prepared. I like to be clean. So, time goes into that. So I think there's nothing more frustrating and
mm.
annoying than getting ready for someone and then they don't respond or they're not online. And I'm like, well, I'm here ready to go, baby. Where are you? I think that's my biggest pet peeve. Um, I'm also peeved when people just don't read my bio. I think that's one of the tips I want to get into. But set some expectations in your bio for what you want to see, what you don't want to see. I do not want my first message from anyone to be a dick pic. That's some people are into that. They're like, bring it home, let's go. I don't care how nice it is, how juicy it looks. I don't want that as my first message. I want to at least say hi. What are you up to? It can very well be the fourth message, but not the very first one. So once I get that, I know, okay, this gentleman has not read my bio, is really just looking for anyone, and that's a big turnoff for me. So I guess those are my two biggest pet peeves is flakes and unsolicited dick pics.
Okay, good ones. So I'm going to share some as well, and then we can get into the good stuff, the tips and tricks. So for me, and I'm not going to take yours, but flakiness is definitely one of them. I would say pick collectors.
Mm,
So what that is my profile, my Grindr profile has, I think, whatever the maximum is, 6 pictures. So like you can go through like and see 6 different photos of me, some of my face, some of my body, with clothes on, with clothes off. Like I have a nice range of photos. You can get a pretty good idea for what I look like. And then they want more, of course. And I'm like, okay, well, like, can we, fine, I get that. I want pictures too, but like, can we chat a bit first? And then they just want more pics, more pics, more pics, more pics, more pics. And then once they get to the juicy pics, the dick pics or the whatever, the nudes, gone. And I'm like, okay, well, where does that leave me now, right? So what I've actually started to do is with people that I actually want to meet, I don't even send them the nudes. I'll send them like a bulge pic or like something still sexy-ish or like my hand covering it, but they won't get the goods until like and that will show me, do you just want a picture of my dick or do you want to actually meet me, right? And I'll say something like, trust me, it's better in real life, or I'll try to make it flirty, you know what I mean? Like I'll try to have some little banter with it so it's a little bit fun. But yeah, that's something I notice as well, is just people want just pics, 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 instead of the dialogue. So that's one. And then I think the other one for me could be that it's like what I said at the beginning, the conversations that die off. Like there's like so much excitement at first, like, okay, yeah, we're chatting, it's cool. And then like it just peters off. I'm like, what happened? Like what everything was going fine. And it's not even about the picture necessarily, but the conversations die on the vine. Like it's there, it's promising, and then it's gone. And if I count all of the good conversations I've had versus all the people that I've actually met, that percentage is very, very small. And I think that's really unfortunate. So those are my two. So that said, let's start getting into the good stuff. So how can we be kinder on Grindr? And I'm gonna let Pepper take it away.
Yeah, so I've actually expanded
Okay,
on
great.
5 tips that I posted back at the end of 2021. The first one is one that I've added since then. When I first posted these, I got a lot of backlash, a lot of people saying, just delete the app, it's not good for you, XYZ happened to me. And I'm sure we'll face a little bit of that with this conversation as well. People will see it and say, just delete the app, it's not good for you. But what I really appreciate of how you started this conversation is understanding that Grindr isn't going anywhere. Thousands of people will continue to use it. So just acknowledging that it kind of is what it is. And getting into that, I mean, once you're engaging on Grindr, if you're re-downloading it, if you're going back on it for the very next time, ask yourself if you're up for it. Check in with yourself, because as many tips and tricks and stories that we can share, there will still be a lot of people that don't get it. There will still be people that aren't respectful. There will still be people that will dehumanize and not care too much about your day or your night. And that's extremely unfortunate, but that is the reality, and that's not lost on me. So I think the first tip is just to check in with yourself and say, am I ready for this? Can I handle this? Not everyone that messages you is going to be, uncouth and nasty and vile, but you will probably encounter 1 or 2 people that you don't have the best vibe with, or you feel disrespected by. So checking in with your mental state. For instance, I'm recently-ish out of a relationship. It was about 2 months ago where that one ended. I didn't immediately download Grindr. I knew that if I did that week, I probably wouldn't have made the best decisions. I was extremely emotional, and I knew that in that state, Grindr wasn't the answer. So I took about a month, close to a month and a half, to get back on the app and to really work on myself and make sure that this was something that I can stomach and I can engage with, and not put all of my self-worth and value into this app as I probably would have done had I downloaded it, the next weekend after a breakup. So that's first for me, is just making sure I can handle what's coming up and what potentially can come up.
Yeah, I call that just self-awareness, right? That's just a good question to check in with yourself. So that's a really good one. And so sometimes I will actually recommend Grindr for some of my clients but I kind of have the benefit of like knowing their context and knowing where they're at and what they want and what they're looking for. Sometimes I will recommend for them stop using this app completely. Other times I'll recommend for them get on this app. It's exactly what you need. So again, it really depends on the context. I don't think it's fair to say it's absolutely good or absolutely bad. It's really contextual. So that's a really good point.
Thank you. Um, I'm kind of going through these in the order of how you would actually use Grindr. So the
Perfect.
first one was before you even log on. I guess the second one would be when building your profile. Make your bio something, that exemplifies your personality. If you're trying to show personality, if you're just there for the fun, make that known. But when making your profile and setting these expectations, make sure that you're doing so with empathy and respect for others. A lot of people, especially here in West Hollywood, I've seen, you know, muscle guys only, fit only. There are so many other words that you can choose to express that you're looking for men with chiseled bodies or that spend a lot of time working on themselves and at the gym. And I can respect that now as someone that now goes to the gym here in West Hollywood. They put a lot of work into their bodies. Like, you do you, girl.
Yeah.
So I can understand now with a little bit more knowledge and experience that preference, but it's all about how you state it. And there are things you shouldn't be saying, especially when it comes into, I guess, racial preferences.
Yeah.
You should never, ever be saying no to a specific ethnicity on your profile. That, I believe, in 2023 is a no-no. I believe in 1993 is a no-no,
Yeah.
and every year before that. And that you really do lack, common sense and respect for yourself, and especially respect for others if you're putting stuff like that on your Grindr profile still.
Yeah.
Where have you been? And in setting these expectations, I'll go back to my example of not wanting to receive dick pics immediately. If you don't want that, go ahead and put that on. If you are in an open relationship and you're just there for the fun, let that be known. If you are, like you said earlier, are not always either looking for now or you're doing other things, you take a while to respond, put that on there now. Just so someone is wondering, oh, I guess he's not into me. He hasn't responded in 30
Right.
minutes. Maybe he's off the app. And there are so many ways to sort of set yourself up for success or at least understanding. I also think, when we can get into this conversation, there's sort of a debate on whether you receive a message from someone and you're not into them, do you respond?
Great question.
Some people say send them a nice rejection. Some people say it's better not to say anything at all. So I'm interested to get into that conversation. But if you're someone that doesn't respond to people when you're not interested, I don't think there's harm in politely saying that. In fact, I came across a profile before that said, I don't respond to all of my messages, wish you a best night. Just so you know, not everyone responds to mine either. And yeah, we can workshop that a little bit, but that's true. We will all be rejected on Grindr. That's sort of the name of the game over there. So just because, let's say, I'm not responding to your message doesn't mean, you're the only person that's facing this. And I think that also goes back to the, am I ready for this? But yeah, this tip is just all about setting up your profile and explaining what you're there for, what your vibe is, and trying to get specific enough, but also recognizing that other people, again, with full lives and vulnerable hearts and brains, are going to be reading this. And yeah, I've seen a lot of interesting / catty
Yes.
profiles for no reason. No reason. Like, once I saw someone say, like, you all have an interesting idea of muscular. It's just like, this is so unnecessary. This, yeah.
Like, what's that gonna attract? Like,
Right.
why would you put that? Like, who's gonna be like, oh, that's an attractive person?
It's giving cartoon villain. Like a
Yeah.
cartoon villain would say something like that.
Let's
Um,
let's pause here though before we go on to the next tip, because I think you asked a very, very, very good question. And I don't know if you remember, but a while ago, maybe like last year, I was on Grindr and I had said, like, hey, what's up? How's your day, to someone, and their immediate response was not interested, period.
mm,
In my mind, I'm like, okay, cool, great, thanks. I won't waste my time. And I moved on. I didn't think much of it. But then, so I posted it on my Instagram as a story, and I asked a poll. It was a poll, like, would you rather this person say this, not interested, very blunt, very direct, or not respond at all? I am of the opinion I'd rather him have responded not interested, because then I wouldn't just be left guessing, wondering, is he going to reply? What's happening? What's happening? But most of the people, I forget what the number was. I wish I had my phone handy. I think it was like something like 65 to 70% had actually preferred that they say nothing at all than to say not interested. And that really blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. I do remember this.
Yeah.
My answer to this has sort of changed and evolved with time. When I first made the 5 ways to be kinder on Grindr post on the Gay Good, I wrote reject respectfully.
Yeah.
Write something like, thank you for your time. I don't think it's a match. I wish you the best of luck with what you're looking for. Or no, thank you. Have fun out there. Be safe. But soon after I made that post, I sent one of those messages, and then my account was what's the word when they take it off, like
Oh, really? Like deactivated?
deactivated. Yeah, my account was deactivated. So I'm assuming that this person did not take too lightly to my rejection response and reported me, because it wasn't too long after that. And I put that on my story. And I saw some of similar conversations and answers for people saying I went out of my way to tell someone I wasn't interested, and they either retaliated, sent not nice messages to me. I was deactivated as well. So I really think it's the best that you can do in the moment.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer getting a message, maybe not as blunt as not interested, period. That kind of hits a little different.
Yeah.
So I think I would prefer getting a message saying that they're not interested, but hopes that I live a happy life or something.
Yeah.
But I respect it when someone doesn't respond. It's a little bit of the message being received, and one of my other tips, not trying to move past this conversation, is just understanding to reject with respect, but also take rejection with respect, and understand that at the end of the day, no one on this app really owes you anything. And that if they're not interested, I hope they're having a good night. Maybe they meet someone that's great for them. I can still go on and message someone, and hopefully they will be interested, and something may come of that.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. But there are so many times where you can express your disinterest, even politely, and be faced with backlash, or, oh, well, you're not that cute anyways. I've received that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you gave me a little flame tap, so what's that all about? So it just goes back to saying, are you ready for this? Are you ready to face rejection? Because when you're on this app with hundreds of other people around you, or if you're in a smaller locale, and even if it's 15 people can be possibly engaging with, not all of them will, want a bite of what you're cooking.
Right. And that's okay, because those aren't your people. That's what I always say.
Mhm.
You don't want someone who doesn't want you. Like, if they're rejecting you, yes, it could hurt, but like at the end of the day, do you really want to be using up your time and energy convincing someone of your worth,
Yeah.
of your, like, no, you don't. You want someone who's going to see you and want to be with you ultimately. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah. And I've also gotten it where I've rejected someone and they wanted to know why. And I kind of just
Mm,
declined to answer,
interesting.
because I didn't think anything productive would have come of it. Me listing the reasons I don't find someone attractive wouldn't make me feel good, definitely wouldn't make them feel good. And honestly, who cares what I have to say? I am one person that doesn't know you, and because of the way this app works, I don't know what your personality is like or how great of a friend you are. And I who cares what that I'm not interested in this very moment. I don't know all the amazing things about you. And stated earlier in this conversation, that's one of the detriments or the lacking features in this app. But going back to it is what it is. That's the nature of how this app, presents itself and how
Yeah.
we show up on it.
I'll make one more comment and then we can go on to the next tip, I promise.
No, do your thing.
So, yeah, another thing for me is that if someone does reject me respectfully, I will just have so much more respect for them. Even though they've just rejected me, I will be like, well, what a stand-up guy. What a way to use your words. What a way to have integrity. What a way to communicate. What a way to be mature. Like all these things for me are like turn-ons. Like I'm like, oh my God, that's ironically the guy who's rejecting me is exactly demonstrating the kinds of things I want because he's doing it in a very kind way. So yeah, I will say that as well. Okay. Now, are we on 3? Are we on our third tip?
Well, we've kind of jumped around a little
Okay.
bit. So I had them listed as 1, ask yourself if you're ready. 2, set your expectations on your profile and also take the time to read others people's expectations on their profile. 3, sort of a subsection to 2, I guess,
Mm.
is stating preferences and what you're looking for with respect and empathy. 4, reject respectfully. And now I guess 5, take rejection respectfully and in stride. Um, so now we will move on to 6. And this goes back a little bit to the flakiness or the pick collectors. Our pet peeves is just respecting time,
Mm.
respecting the fact that people may be looking for now, maybe they're not looking for now. I will speak from experience. I'm usually not looking for right now because again, a lady must prepare. But it's also I've now in this stage of my life rather look for friends with benefits and something a little bit more regular, which can come up of a one night stand. But I like to talk a little bit more before getting physical with someone. So, and I let that be known pretty early on in my conversations, unless I am looking for now. But it's usually just so you know, like I'm going to work in an hour. But if you'd like to chat until then, I'm all for it. And that chat can be friendly or it can be a little sexy, depending on how we're both feeling. But I think it's important to note again that everyone is not on the same wavelength as you for what they're looking for, what they're doing at that point of time and to give people their time to respond. I remember getting very anxious if someone was responding back and forth with me really quickly, and then, oh, wait, it's been 6 minutes? What did I say? Or, oh, now it's been 12. Who knows what's going on in their life? Maybe they got a call, maybe they're in the shower. I truly have no idea.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of respecting time is again with preparation and getting ready to meet, especially if you've discussed what you're going to get into. If you're unsure that you can actually meet that night, let someone know. Let someone know if you're talking to someone else, if you're going to a party, if there are some plans that you may go check out. But don't leave it up in the air when someone can be pretty committed to this and pretty sure of the fact that you will be meeting. Because, like we said, no one wants to get excited for something, feel like you're about to get this, and then it doesn't pay off. Not that you, not that you're owed that, I guess. Not that you've talked about, you know, having a little fun and it doesn't happen. We can get into that conversation. Not that you owe someone,
Yeah.
sex or anything of the sort. But it just is all about being as communicative and respectful as possible because an hour of your day is a lot, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on in my day when I'm on this app. So respecting time in every way, shape, and form you can with empathy and conversation and communication is a big one for me.
I think communication is such a big one because we communicate very differently online behind the safety of a screen than we would, kind of like we talked about at the beginning, than we would like on an actual face-to-face date. What I think happens, and when I say what I think happens is I'm talking about me,
Mhm.
is it's that safety piece, right? Behind the screen, it's very safe and easy to like chat. Oh yeah, let's meet up, blah, 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 blah. But then it becomes real at some point, right? Then they're like, okay, I'll be over there in 10 minutes. What's your address? And then it just becomes that the fact that it becomes real is almost, I think, scary for some people in some circumstances, right? And it's so much safer and there's no risk involved with very little risk involved with doing this behind a screen. But there's more vulnerability in having someone come over and meeting them face to face. Then they're going to see what you really look like, right? They're going to have a real idea for how you live, where you are, your energy, your vibe, and that really puts us in the risking rejection, like, oh, I'm going to see you and then reject you. And I think a lot of people get scared by that. At least I've been in that position too, where I'm like, okay, well, he saw these pictures, but what if he doesn't like me in real life? And like, what if this just goes bad? And what if it's an awkward experience? Or what if I don't like him? And then I'm in the awkward position of being like, actually, can you leave now? I've changed my mind, right? Like, it's so awkward. So it's almost easier to just, let's just exchange pics. I'll jerk off to your pics, you jerk off to my pics, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, no, and that's real. The game, the the um the atmosphere does change when you set a time and you're like, I'll be there in 20 minutes or I'll be there in an hour. It becomes much more real. Um, yeah, completely see that, feel that, receive that in myself. But that kind of goes into another point I was going to make, that even, let me read it just to make sure I'm getting my words right. I wrote this so Miami like, no one owes you anything once you're there. But in saying that is, even if the vibe is there online, the pics are flowing, and you're there, if you're not feeling it, you, like every sexual encounter, you have every right to put a stop to it, to ask to take a few steps backward. And yes, that may be awkward. It can be a little embarrassing, but you also have the right to advocate for yourself and to be present in that moment and think, you know what, maybe this isn't for me tonight. Maybe this wasn't meant to be. About a month ago, actually, I was talking to this guy for most of the day, and then we agreed on meeting up later that night. I watched Avatar: The Way of Water with a friend. They are also not sponsoring us. James Cameron is not sponsoring this. I went to his right after, and the vibe just wasn't there sexually for me. And we talked for about an hour. He made me a nice drink. We actually had a pretty great discussion about a lot of stuff that had no way, shape, or form any relation to sex. But around halfway through, I got the feeling that I didn't want to get physical with this person. And yes, that was anxiety inducing for me. It's not a fun conversation to have. But I also know that if I did get physical, that wouldn't have been fun for me either. And ultimately not for him, because I would have been, half-assing it or trying to get through it. And that's not something I want for anyone listening to this.
Yeah.
So I plainly said, thank you so much for your company and for having me over, for the conversation and the drink. But ultimately, I'm not feeling great sexual chemistry here. And I think I'm going to be on my way. Thank you again. And, was it awkward? Yes, it was really awkward leaving. But the second I left, I went, whew, I'm proud of myself for doing that. I don't think I would have done that when I was 22 or just getting on the app. And it ultimately probably was for the best for the both of us. So you're totally right. The game does change once you're going to go see someone. It's not as comfortable. It's not as safe. You're way more vulnerable. Not that, many Grindr situations, become dangerous. That's not what I'm trying to say, but you still have the autonomy and the choice throughout any aspect of Grindr online. And when you get there to see someone, to take a step back, to assess the situation and how you're feeling, and ultimately decide or redecide where this is going.
Something that I've learned in, I'm going to say maybe a few years ago, I kind of made this promise to myself after a series of bad situations, bad meetups, was that I was never going to agree to do anything physically until I met them in person. Because I think three times in a row, when I met the person, that like his pictures were hot, and I was like all into it, and I was so ready to go. And then I met them in real life, and kind of the same thing. Like, it just wasn't there. Either he didn't look anything like his photos, or it just wasn't there. Like, for me, it's just a very energetic thing. Like, attraction for me, like, I need to just feel it. Sometimes I feel it, and sometimes I don't. It doesn't matter how hot, I'm using air quotes, you may be. If I don't feel it, I don't feel it. So I just stopped making promises of anything sexual. I'll say it, let's meet up, and then we'll see how it goes. And if they don't like that, they're not for me. Like, listen, I'm not, then you're not my guy. Sorry. And that's okay. I'll take it as a goodbye. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And I really respect that. I've talked to many guys that are like, oh, no bareback, then no. And I'm like, okay, you're right, then no.
It's not a
Or
match.
if you're not down to fuck, then no. And I'm
Yeah.
like, exactly.
Yeah.
Then you're right. It's not meant to be. I hope you find what you're looking for. It's just not me. Um, Ready for the next tip?
Yes. Give it to
Great.
us.
This is the last one I wrote down, but try your best to avoid judgment. Like we both said, we've experienced, tried new things on the app, but every now and then you'll come across a kink, a request that you're either not familiar with, not comfortable with, and again, you are more than you're more than okay to state that you're not comfortable with that, but also allow people to live their lives, like what they like, to, you know, try their things and experience their fantasies. And about, I'd say, a week ago, I was talking to this guy about role play. And I'm like, okay, I've done that once or twice, but sure, let's talk about it. Maybe there's something here we can agree on. And potential trigger word here, but he said he was really into rape play. And I told him, oh, wow, I am not into that. That doesn't excite me. Um, is there anything else that you would like to act out? But I said it in a way that was, I didn't put him down or be like, oh, absolutely not for me, even though in my mind I was like, ooh, could never be me. But if that's what he likes and is doing so in a safe way, who am I to disparage him or to screenshot this message and to put it on my close friend story, as many of the gays do with their Grindr messages? I'm gonna allow him to like what he likes, and maybe there's some middle ground that we can agree on. But it goes back to respecting that this is a person. You don't know their experiences, as though he doesn't know my experiences, especially in that category. And just trying to be open and rejecting again respectfully, rejecting that aspect, that kink respectfully, while still potentially being open to other activities or scenarios, if we're still talking about role play here. So that's become sort of a big one for me, is just taking in information, processing it, saying, yeah, I can lean into that, or no, I don't think I'd be comfortable with this, but thanks for sharing.
That's a great example. And I love that you said you can reject the act or something, but still remember there's a human there. You don't need to like disparage the human being, but you can say, no, thank you. This is not something I'm into.
Mhm.
And that's a very mature thing to do. So I'm happy to use that example. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, and I will say I actually did meet up with that gentleman,
Okay.
and had a lovely time. And I've gotten really into talking about like turn-ons and turn-offs. Like
Yes.
I've stated, I'm looking for more of friends with benefits, more regular partners than a one-off, as I was probably a couple years ago in my Grindr activity or pursuits. So I think it's important to say, what are hard no's for you? What have you tried? What are you looking to get into? That entire question of into,
Yeah.
there are so many ways to answer that is not just saying you're a top or a bottom, because that's not what I'm asking. When I'm asking what you're into. So with that is hearing a lot of new information when I'm asking what people are into and what their kinks are, and just trying to absorb it and again reject or compromise or discuss as best as I can.
Um, into is a good one because I love giving fun answers to that. When people say into, I will just give them, I'll give them like whatever I'm into. Like right now I'm into like wings and a beer.
Yeah,
That's what I'm into. And they're like, what? No, are you a top or bottom?
I'm
And I'm
into
like,
after
I
four.
don't like, I'm just gonna have fun with this. Like sometimes I like to think of Grindr as a bit of an experiment. Like that way it takes a little bit of the pressure off. Like I'm just gonna go in there and see what happens. I'm gonna go in there and like I'll know what I'm looking for, but I do think it's a little bit um it can be fun at times to play with people's intos and top bottom, or like when they just send me a picture, like I will kind of have a sense of humor with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have fun with it. Like break the norm. I know.
Yeah.
Make one of those answers funny or show a little personality. Just do something different. Again, there's so many people that could be messaging you. Like stick out a little bit. Not saying
So
write me a poem, but maybe do.
yeah, I mean, and I personally would find that incredibly attractive and like witty and clever and creative and intelligent. And that would be like check, 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 check for me.
Mhm.
Okay, let's talk about getting off the app. So I think it's also important. You talked about the beginning, knowing when you're going to go on, like the pre. I think it's just as important to know when you've had enough and when it's time for a hiatus or like just getting off the app. So what would you say? How would you know, like, okay, it's time for a break?
Yeah, that's a great question. As mentioned, I've been on and off with it, and usually when getting off, it's either A, it's taking up too much time, B, taking up too much of my vulnerability and putting too much out there, investing too much of my emotions or self-worth there. Um, Three, have I been safe? Have I just been, having fun here willy-nilly and not really thinking about my health? Um, that's something I think Grindr can do a better job of, putting into their messaging. And that's a whole nother conversation
Yeah.
around sexual health and hookup apps and, queer culture. But it just comes back to the same type of questions I had when I'm getting back on it or just even logging on is what am I doing here? How is it affecting me? Is it net positive? What am I sacrificing by putting my time and space here? Who am I talking to? Have I already accomplished what I set out to do? Am I looking for something a little bit more serious? Not that you can't find a serious relationship on Grindr. But one of the reasons I got off of it around last year is I started looking for a relationship, which I did find, and as mentioned, didn't work out. But I went through that journey and decided Grindr wasn't for me at that time. I wanted to focus more on apps like Tinder or Hinge, or going to like singles events here in WeHo, and meeting people in person. And it's important to check in with yourself. I'd say monthly while on the app and be like, how did this go? How am I
Yeah.
feeling? Where do I want to be going with this? And am I looking for fun? Am I looking for friends, a relationship? Um, it's all about self-awareness.
Yeah, I agreed. Why? Like, why am I going on this app right now? Before, instead of just like kind of automatically doing it like unconsciously, like ask myself, why am I picking this one? Why am I going to do this? And then kind of that evaluation, like, how has this been going for me? Like, let's just take a minute to evaluate. Am I just, doing this because it's what I do, or do I really want to be? Am I getting anything out of this? The last break I took was 9 months. And that was, I think, last year, maybe it was like maybe about a year and a half ago. I took 9 months off the app. And my reason was there was no point. Like I found that I was using it as a distraction. So it was something that I went to as like my little Wookiee when I didn't want to do work or when I didn't want to deal with my life or when I wanted to like numb whatever emotion I was feeling. And I just said, why am I doing this? This is such a waste of my time. My productivity went up. Um, everything just, I had more time in my day and it was a good choice. Eventually, oh, actually, that's what it was when I came back to Puerto Vallarta last year. So it was over a year ago. I downloaded it again when I came back to Puerto Vallarta because I'm like, okay, well, now I'm not working as much. I'm going to be in PV. I want to meet some people. And then I'm going to re-download it again for the purpose of meeting people and doing what you do. So yeah, I think it's equally important to know when to get off. And those questions that you had asked, Pepper, were really, really good. So I hope people go back and rewind and listen to that again, and be honest with yourself as you answer that. And if you find, hey, wait a minute, maybe this thing isn't for me, then take a hiatus. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we are at the end of our episode today. At the end of the day, I think what I want to say is be the change you wish to see on Grindr, ultimately. So Pepper, really quickly, where can people find you if they want to follow your social media or get to know more about you?
Yeah, I have two Instagram accounts you can find me at. My personal one, which you're more than welcome to come visit, is pepper underscore underscore time. So Pepper Time. And the Gay Good, that's where you'll find most of my content creation and having discussions like the ones we had today. Trying to put a lot more energy into that this year than I had last year. So at the Gay Good, you can find me there as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And audience, I will be putting all this in the show notes, so you don't have to go too far. Just click on the links. I'll put them all there, and it'll take you right to his account. As for me, you can find me in the Gay Men's Brotherhood, the Facebook group. We do monthly Zoom hangouts the last Thursday of every month. So join us there. You could also follow me on Instagram. I'll link this all in the notes as well, Willismo_coach. And if you're interested in joining any of my workshops, you can go to my website, www.willismo.com. I may, after this conversation, Pepper, have to like dust off the how to meet great guys on Grindr and do it again.
Please do. Bring it on.
Yes. Yeah, it was really successful back in the day. And then I switched more to now doing ones about sexual empowerment, which I love doing. But there's only so much time in the week that I can do these workshops. So, okay, that's what I've got for you guys today. Again, thank you, Pepper, for your wisdom. And as I said, I don't know if I said it when we were recording, but I love the way that you speak because it's very relatable. And I think it's very important, the work you do and the content you create. So thank you, not just for today, but for all the content that you're putting out there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you for inviting me on again. It was a pleasure and always really good to see you as well.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.